Your body temperature is elevated by exactly 1.3 degrees. Nasal excretions are abnormal. You have been coughing for the last 46 minutes, Dr. Velnox stated, its glistening turquoise oculars narrowing slightly. You are infected. Zane Kollins swung his legs over the side of the examination slab, coughing into the crook of his elbow. Yeah, I caught a cold. Dr. Velnox's long digits froze mid-air. You're mistaken. This is not a cold. This virus has been identified as an acutely lethal biopathogen. It liquefied a Sarnox lung tissue in under 3 hours. You need to be sealed in containment immediately. I'm telling you, document. It's just a cold. I get one like this every winter back home. Sore throat, runny nose, the works. I'll sleep it off. No, Velnox said. It's tone flat. You will not. The doors to the medbay hissed open and Captain Relek strode in, his pale skin etched with concern. Doctor, is the human infected with the Varelian strain? Yes. Full exposure. He is symptomatic. Relek's shoulders stiffened. How long does he have? Zane blinked. Excuse me. Between 5 and 7 hours until organ collapse, based on observed cases, Velnox said. Zane rubbed his forehead and winced. Look, I appreciate the concern, but humans deal with viruses all the time. We've got immune systems built for this sort of thing. I just need fluids, rest, and maybe some chicken soup. Captain Relek turned to Velnox. Is this some kind of human psychological coping mechanism? Unclear, Velnox replied. However, if untreated, the virus should have fully compromised his respiratory system by now. Zane stood, his knees wobbling slightly. Okay, I'm dizzy, but still alive. See, no collapsing organs. Relek took a cautious step back. It's mutating inside him, isn't it? Possibly adapting to his biology, Velnox said. But the strain is incredibly virulent. We cannot risk transmission. Zane raised a hand. I haven't even sneezed on anyone. I've been in here since I got the sniffles. We're sealing this section off now, Relek said. Doctor, begin full quarantine procedures. If he dies, we incinerate everything. Zane sat back down. Nice bedside manners. 3 hours into quarantine, Zane had built a tower of empty water pouches on the edge of the sterilized cot. He was still coughing, sweating, and miserable, but not dead. Velnox stood outside the transparent containment wall, analyzing scans with increasing agitation. Your vitals are stable, Velnox said. This is not expected. Zane blew his nose into the tissue strip provided. Told you. It's a cold. You are not demonstrating the systemic degradation typical of Varelian exposure. Yet your body is clearly under attack. Zane took a sip from the electrolyte mix. We've got fevers, chills, sore throats, the whole package. Sometimes it takes a few days, sometimes a week, but we don't drop dead. Velnox turned to Relek, who had returned with the ship's security officer. The virus is not functioning inside him the same way. It may be that his immune system is adapting more rapidly than ours, or that the pathogen is struggling to replicate. Relek narrowed his eyes. How is that possible? Zane chuckled, then coughed. Maybe Earth viruses are just nastier. Builds character. By day 2, Velnox had collected enough samples to fill an entire freezer bank. Zane was still feverish, lying under 3 thermal layers, but he was no longer worsening. I need to know what your immune system is doing, Velnox said. It's punching the virus in the face, Zane muttered. Now can I get more tissues? You may be the key to a vaccine, Velnox said. I must replicate your T-cell response. Knock yourself out, Zane said, voice scratchy. Just don't take all my blood. Over the next 48 hours, the ship's crew watched in fascinated disbelief as Zane's condition plateaued, then slowly improved. The Varelian strain had wiped out 2 entire colonies within 72 hours. Yet the human was recovering. Velnox ran simulations, gene mappings, and response analyses. Zane, meanwhile, watched old Earth comedies on his data slate, surrounded by humidifiers and vitamin packs. Your leukocyte production is off the charts, Velnox said, scanning him again. You are generating antibodies faster than I can isolate them. Zane wiped his nose. We've got practice. You ever been in a kindergarten during flu season? Relek entered the lab, his expression unreadable. Doctor, the virus has been detected in 3 crew members, all exposed before the human was quarantined. Zane slowly sat up. Are they okay? Symptomatic, Velnox said. Worsening rapidly. Their biology is not resisting the pathogen. Relek motioned to Velnox. Can you use the human's antibodies? I have already initiated synthesis, Velnox said. But the compatibility matrix is complex. Their biochemistry differs significantly. Zane swung his legs over the edge of the cot. Then give them mine. Velnox hesitated. You are still weakened. I can walk. Take what you need. The transfusion process took hours. Zane lay motionless, his color pale, lips dry. 2 liters of blood were drawn and processed into plasma for antibody extraction. Velnox worked without pause, and by the 3rd hour, the synthesized serum was ready. The infected crew members were administered the serum immediately. Zane barely registered the success, drifting in and out of sleep. He remained under observation for the next week. His fever broke on day 5. By day 7, he was upright, walking in slow circles around the medbay, sipping broth. I'm cleared, right? He asked. You are no longer contagious, Velnox said. But your body is still healing. You must rest. I've been resting. I'm going stir-crazy. You suffered systemic viral trauma. Your lungs are still inflamed. Zane sighed. Fine. Another day. Rilek entered with a tablet. 3 crew members recovered fully. No signs of lingering infection. The vaccine is being distributed to Allied ships. You may have saved hundreds of lives. Not bad for a mild cold, huh? Zane said. Rilek stared at him. You call that mild? You should see what happens when we get the flu. Velnox stiffened. There are more. Thousands, Zane said. Some worse than this. Rilek looked to Velnox. We need a human virology archive. I've already requested access, Velnox said. Their species may be the only viable model for surviving certain pathogens. Zane raised a brow. You mean we're finally useful for something besides war and mining? Rilek actually allowed a twitch of amusement. You are. Unique. 2 weeks after exposure, Zane was officially cleared. The medbay was sterilized, the emergency protocols lifted. The crew resumed normal operations. Zane joined Rilek and Velnox on the bridge, holding a mug of tea. Still a little wheezy, he said. But I'll live. You should return to quarters and avoid exertion, Velnox said. Zane nodded. Soon. Just wanted to see the stars again. Rilek looked at him. Would you allow us to study your immune system further? As long as it doesn't involve any more needles. We cannot guarantee that. Zane groaned. Fine. But next time, I get better snacks. Velnox turned to Rilek. We must reclassify the virus. Clearly, its lethality is species-dependent. Rilek nodded. Agreed. What should we call it now? Zane sipped his tea. Honestly, just call it the common cold. It's got a nice ring to it. Velnox blinked. That name is deeply misleading. Welcome to Earth humor. Rilek shook his head. I don't understand how your species survives. Zane gave a tired smile. Neither do we. We just do. The ship's environmental scrubbers wheezed to life with an uneven hum, a sound no one paid much attention to until they began cycling twice as fast. Zane noticed it first, sitting cross-legged in the crew lounge, piecing together what looked like a dismantled protein dispenser. Anyone else hear that? He asked without looking up, tightening a tiny bolt with a borrowed alien tool that resembled a fork mated with a wrench. Second technician Urith, a pale-limbed biped who'd once eaten a napkin thinking it was a protein wrap, leaned in from a nearby terminal. Those VIN oscillations exceed standard rhythm. I figured, Zane said. Just didn't want to sound paranoid again. You have never ceased sounding paranoid, Urith replied. Zane grinned. It's a cultural trait. The lights flickered once then again, more dramatically. An overhead monitor blinked into static before rebooting with a low chime. That chime usually meant a hull breach or reactor stress. Zane stood up quickly, his knees still stiff. Where's Rilek? He asked. And why does it smell like burnt ozone in here? Urith sniffed the air. Atmospheric filters may be overcompensating. If the carbon suppressors are misaligned, we could be drawing in raw plasma exhaust. That doesn't sound like something you want in your lungs, Zane said. It is not. The intercom buzzed overhead. All crew to secondary command. Emergency Protocol 4. Repeat. Protocol 4. Zane didn't wait for clarification. He bolted down the corridor, ignoring the protest from his still-recovering joints. When he reached the secondary command deck, the room was already in motion. Rilek barked orders while Velnox monitored a pulsing red readout on a central console. The overhead schematic showed a glowing dot in close proximity to the ship. You're early, Rilek said without turning. Didn't feel like waiting around to see if this was a drill, Zane said. What's knocking on our door? Velnox pointed to the screen. A vessel of unknown origin. It arrived without broadcasting identification. Its approach vector intersects with our escape trajectory. Hostile? Zane asked. Not yet, Relek replied. But it's transmitting on a non-standard frequency. It's also emitting high-energy bursts from its lower stabilizers. That could be a weapon or a malfunction. Zane stepped closer. Can we hail them? They respond only in pulses. We've translated 2 cycles so far. It appears to be a distress signal, but it's modulating changing syntax every minute. Could be AI-driven, Zane muttered. Trying to adapt to us. Or trying to scan us, Velnox added. I recommend distance. Relek's eyes narrowed. Agreed. Prepare magnetic decoupling. If it latches, we drop the cargo segment. Zane's stomach dropped. That includes the mebe. Exactly. The ship shuddered a moment later. Not violently, but enough to make the floor feel soft underfoot. Outside, the unknown vessel had latched onto them magnetically. The schematic now flashed a blinking orange warning. Too late, Relek said. Do we cut it? Zane asked. Velnox shook his head. Not until we know what's inside. It may not survive detachment. Or it may kill us if we don't, Relek said. Hate to ask, Zane said, but has anyone tried boarding it? All heads turned toward him. You're volunteering? Relek asked. No, Zane said. But I've got half a liter of alien virus antibodies in me and a knack for not dying. So, yeah, I guess I am. I will accompany you, Velnox said. You are still not medically cleared for high exertion scenarios. You're worried I'll strain something? Zane asked. Pretty sure being magnetically boarded by a mystery ship is already stressful. Relek handed him a field mask. You have 5 minutes to prep. If you're not back in 20, we seal it and cut the segment. Comforting, Zane muttered. Within minutes, he and Velnox stood in the pressurization chamber, strapped into lightweight suits. The outer hatch creaked open, revealing the tunnel that now connected them to the foreign vessel. The corridor flickered with intermittent blue light, pulsing as if the ship itself were breathing. Nice ambience, Zane said. No signs of life, Velnox replied, but high levels of bioelectric activity. They stepped inside. The interior of the vessel was cramped, barely wide enough for Zane's shoulders. The walls were lined with hexagonal etchings that shimmered when touched. Velnox paused to scan one. These patterns correspond to neural mapping structures, he said. This ship may be partially organic. Sentient? Possibly. We're hosting something that is. A low hum began to rise, like a distant cello string being plucked over and over. Zane touched the nearest panel. It felt warm. Then a section of wall slid open, revealing a chamber filled with translucent fluid and what looked like a body floating inside. It was humanoid, but elongated, with 6 slender arms folded across its chest. Tubes extended from its back into the chamber walls. Zane recoiled slightly. That's not a crew member. That's cargo. Velnox leaned in. No, it's the pilot. The body's eyes opened. Zane jumped back, slamming into the opposite wall. Okay, didn't expect that. The pilot's mouth moved, but no sound emerged. Instead, the ship pulsed again, and this time, the pattern matched the distress signal they decoded earlier. It's communicating through the ship, Velnox said. The vessel is an extension of its nervous system. Zane stepped forward cautiously. Can it understand us? I believe so. It's trying to connect. Outside, Relek's voice crackled over the comm. You have 10 minutes. We're detecting irregular energy spikes. Inside the pod, the pilot reached out with one hand, pressing it against the inner surface. The fluid inside shimmered, and suddenly Zane's field mask displayed a scrolling set of glyphs then. A translation. Pathogen. System failure. Need host compatibility. Zane frowned. It's infected. Velnox examined the readings. The pathogen is structurally similar to the Virelian strain, but it's evolved. It's more aggressive. Then why isn't it dead already? It's stronger than us, but not immune. Zane looked at the pilot. It came here for a cure. Yes, Velnox said, or to merge with a compatible immune system. Zane hesitated. You think it wants me? The pilot's glyphs changed again. Not destroy. Integrate. That was not comforting. Zane turned to Velnox. If I let it access my biology, could it replicate my antibodies? In theory. But it could also overwrite your immune system entirely. Worst case, you die. Best case, you save another species. Zane turned back to the pilot. You can't just take it. I have to allow it. The pilot's eyes didn't blink, but the scrolling text changed again. Consent required. Zane sighed. Of course it is. He pulled off one glove and placed his hand on the chamber wall. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then a burst of light surged through the fluid. A thin filament extended from the pod and touched his hand. Pain lanced through his arm like ice. He dropped to one knee, gritting his teeth as the ship's lights pulsed in sympathy. Velnox moved to intervene, but Zane raised his other hand. No. Let it finish. Seconds passed. Then the filament withdrew. Zane collapsed backward, breathing heavily. The glyphs changed to final time. Replication successful. Host safe. Departing. The pod sealed. The chamber walls slid shut. Zane sat up slowly. Tell Rilek. They're leaving. Velnox helped him to his feet. You could have died. Yeah, Zane whispered. But I didn't. Back on the main deck, the foreign ship detached silently. It disappeared into subspace without fanfare, leaving nothing behind but a faint electromagnetic residue. Rilek met them at the airlock. What did it want? Zane wiped sweat from his face. Hope. Rilek looked at Velnox. Is he stable? For now, Velnox said. But I will need to monitor him. The transfer may have triggered unknown changes. Zane exhaled and leaned against the wall. Let's just hope I don't start glowing. Rilek didn't laugh, but the corners of his mouth twitched. You are not permitted to mutate without approval. Zane smiled weakly. Add it to the list. By the fourth day after contact with the symbiotic pilot, Zane had developed a new kind of fatigue less like the flu, more like being hollowed out from the inside and lightly reheated. He hadn't eaten solid food since the incident, and every meal replacement left a metallic aftertaste that made his jaw itch. Velnox had run 15 blood panels, all of which now required recalibration because Zane's immune markers had gone rogue and begun generating proteins the ship's diagnostics didn't recognize. In the med bay, Zane sat upright with electrodes strapped to his forearms and a thermal wrap across his shoulders, his eyes twitching beneath a pair of dark irised biometric readers. Across from him, Velnox was mid-dissection of a thermal readout that looked like a bar graph having a panic attack. That your version of good news? Zane asked, voice gravel thick. Unclear, Velnox said. Your antibody production has entered a self-cycling cascade. It no longer follows established human immunological sequences. Are you saying I broke my immune system? You may have optimized it beyond stability. Zane blinked slowly. You know, I was hoping for something simple, like a rash. You are now producing immunoglobulins that resemble both fungal and viral defense structures, Velnox continued. Additionally, your cellular respiration rate has increased by 27%, yet your oxygen saturation remains constant. Meaning, your body is compensating for something it has not fully identified. It may be preparing for another interface. Zane rubbed his sternum. I don't want another interface. Then you must minimize external stimuli. Great. I'll just lie in a box somewhere and not breathe too hard. Velnox didn't look up. That would be ideal. At midday, Rilek arrived, not wearing his usual command coat, but a neutral-toned coverall. He nodded to Zane, then offered a sealed container the size of a shoebox. Your belongings from the boarding chamber, he said. We decontaminated them twice. Zane opened the lid. Inside were his multi-tool, a cracked data slate, and a small, folded cloth as scarf, still damp from condensation. He picked it up and held it to his face. Thanks, he said. This smells like boiled circuit boards now. Better than liquefied lungs, Rilek said. Velnox says you're changing. Not by choice. Rilek glanced toward the screens. I reviewed the footage. The pilot didn't try to infect you. It transferred something deliberately. Zane dropped the scarf and let his arm fall. So what? I'm a courier now. We don't know. I didn't sign up to be a biological USB stick. Rilek tilted his head. Your idioms remain opaque. Good. Keep him that way. Velnox stepped forward. I ran a DNA integrity assay. Your telomeres have extended. Zane raised an eyebrow. You're saying I'm getting younger? No, but your cells are resisting senescence. Rilek folded his arms. That's not normal. Nothing about this is. By early evening, Zane's temperature had stabilized, but only after his body had gone through a 6-hour cycle where it oscillated between hypothermic chills and near febrile spikes. Velnox recorded every fluctuation, occasionally muttering about immunothermic thresholds and cross-species resilience metrics. Zane had stopped paying attention around the time his bones started feeling like they were vibrating. He lay back on the gurney, breathing slow and shallow, as if his lungs had decided to ration effort. "Do you want to sedate me?" he asked. "That would be dangerous," Velnox replied. "Your neural signals are fragmented. Suppression could interfere with regulatory feedback. Just say yes or no, Velnox." "No." "Then give me something to chew on." Velnox handed him a square of dry protein fiber. Zane bit into it and grimaced. "This tastes like insulation foam." "It is." Rilek re-entered, this time with a sealed report in hand. He placed it on the table between them. "Command has reviewed the incident. The pilot's species was a biological relay node. It interfaced with other life forms to exchange adaptive resistance traits. It wasn't seeking cure. It was distributing one." Zane sat up straighter. "So I'm a vaccine? You're a carrier. A living patch." Zane exhaled. "That's poetic. And useless." "You're still unstable," Rilek said. "We can't risk you leaving the ship without full clearance." "I wasn't planning a vacation. You'll need to remain under observation for at least 72 hours. Velnox nodded. "I suggest full biofeedback immersion. That will allow us to monitor your autonomic systems without invasive sampling." Zane looked between them. "You're going to plug me into a dream simulator and watch me sweat?" "Correct." "Fine. But if I start growing extra limbs, I want hazard pay." He was escorted to the isolation chamber, a low-lit hexagonal pod with an embedded diagnostic frame. Thin sensory wires were attached to his temples, wrists, and ankles. Once sealed inside, the pod emitted a low-frequency hum that induced a semi-lucid state. Zane floated in and out of consciousness, half dreaming of old Earth cities and half aware of the diagnostic pings echoing through the chamber. At the 16-hour mark, his vitals normalized. The immune cascade plateaued. Velnox noted that his white cell counts had stabilized into a new baseline, one that no longer matched any Earth reference model. By the end of the second day, Zane was up and walking, albeit slowly. He returned to the crew lounge, where Urith was attempting to reprogram an entertainment console using 3 spoons and something that resembled a fossilized eel. "You look less liquefied," Urith said without turning. "I'm trying a new thing called not dying," Zane replied. Urith tapped the console. "Statistically impressive." Rilek appeared in the doorway, arms behind his back. "We've confirmed it," he said. "The pilot strain was a delivery system. It used your immune profile as a template for cross-species adaptation. We've already synthesized a base serum. Distribution begins within the hour." Zane leaned against the wall. "So it's over." "It's over." Velnox joined them, handing Zane a new biometric pass. "You are no longer contagious, but you remain biologically anomalous. I recommend monthly sequencing. Just don't make me eat more insulation foam." "No promises." Zane looked around the lounge at the blinking consoles, the smell of sterilized air, the faint hum of life support systems that never quite shut off. "Do I get a medal?" he asked. Rilek raised one brow. "Would you like one?" "I'd settle for a sandwich." Velnox handed him a wrapped ration. "This one contains actual bread." Zane tore it open, took a bite, and chewed thoughtfully. It tasted like cardboard, but it was solid, and it didn't try to rewrite his DNA. "I'll take it," he said. No alarms sounded. No lights flickered. Outside, the stars kept drifting past in quiet procession. For the first time in weeks, Zane felt something close to ordinary. Not normal, never that, but something steady. Something survivable. "Guess I'll live," he muttered. Urith looked up. Unusual, but not impossible. Zane raised the sandwich in a mock toast. "To human biology." Velnox inclined his head. "Confounding, inefficient, and inexplicably effective." Rilek said nothing, but there was the faintest flicker at the corner of his mouth. And that was enough.